everybody. Welcome to Keeping It Real Tea. I'm your host, Yolanda Brockington. I have Kendall and Dan here with me. They're from Dan Radebaugh LLC. Did I say that right? I'm sorry. I
Law,
murdered that.
Law Office of Daniel M. Radebaugh.
Radebaugh, Law Office of Daniel and Radebaugh. And they're here today with me, guys, to talk to you guys about short sales. We're going to talk about a lot of just different things that can help you into the real estate industry. If you're just joining us, please like, comment, and share with many people who can be able to relate to us talking about short sales today. Short sales is very common right now in the industry. We know right now a lot of people are going through forbearances. A lot of people are going to be at some point where they're going to need help and they're going to need assistance when it comes to short sales. So Kendall and I recently we're working on a deal together right now, and I thought it would be wonderful to have her and her boss Dan come on to talk to us a lot about what they are currently doing in the industry and with short sales in their department. So Kendall, I want to start with you. Thank you so much, number one, for coming on with me. Thank you so much for just everything that you're doing with the deal that we're currently working on together. And I just want to tell my guests a little bit more about you and your background with short sales. So let us know a little bit about you.
Sure. So about me, let me just start from kind of my little spiel. So I actually did not originally start off in life as a short sale negotiator. I was a teacher for 3 years in the Baltimore City school systems. That was a little tough for me, so I got out of there. And then pretty shortly afterwards, I ended up getting hired at a short sale negotiation company. It was very small at the time. It was just the two owners, one other person, and then I came on as the next person in line. And that is my first step into real estate. That was over 10 years ago, not a ton over 10 years, but 10 years and some months ago. So I learned a lot about short sales in that time. I negotiated well over like hundreds and hundreds of short sales in that time. I've seen so much from really great, smooth short sales that take less than 30 days to get to settlement. And I've also seen short sales that have taken many, many months. As those nightmares that a lot of agents and people might hear about short sales that they take forever. I have unfortunately had short sales that took a very long time, and a lot of times the short sales time frame, it has to do with the mortgage company and what type of loan that we're dealing with when it comes to the seller and the seller themselves. So there's just so many aspects about short sales that are so interesting to me, but I have been doing them for, like I said, 10 plus years, so I've seen a lot.
So, and when you say that it takes you a short time to maybe close a short sale, is that because your paperwork is together up front? You kind of know what they're going to already prepare for, or what would make it shorter than versus a longer short sale process?
Yes. So one of the biggest factors that I have seen that influences how long a short sale takes is the paperwork aspect of it. There is a ton of paperwork that is required in a short sale, mostly because the mortgage companies, if they end up approving the short sale, the mortgage companies are going to be taking a loss. They are going to be agreeing to sell the property for less than what it's owed. And in that respect, they're losing money. So if the bank is losing money, they want to verify that the seller themselves has a financial hardship and that there's a very valid reason for the bank to take that loss. So they're going to request from the seller a ton of paperwork. They're going to request bank statements, pay stubs, 2 years of tax returns, financial statements, a hardship letter, anything else that you could not anything else that you could possibly imagine, but I've seen some things that they've requested as far as maybe they want proof of hardship, and that could be if there's a medical issue, they want to see medical bills. And so really any short sale, the short sale lender is allowed to request anything that they want to qualify the seller. And if the seller drags their feet in submitting those items, then the short sale just is at a standstill for however long the bank is waiting for those documents. And the same goes for the buyer's side as well. Sometimes they might request items from the buyer. And if the buyer drags their feet and maybe submitting a proof of funds statement. So something that's common in short sales is the bank may be getting a mortgage loan and they have their pre-approval letter, which in most traditional sales is perfectly fine and sufficient. But in a short sale, oftentimes the short sale lender might want to see the pre-approval letter, but also proof that the buyer has the money in the bank to cover their down payment funds as well. And so again, if the buyer kind of drags their feet, hems and haws about submitting that, that can also add more time to the short sale. So really, in my opinion, that is the number one reason why short sales get delayed, is because of paperwork.
Interesting. And I just want to repeat that for anyone who has just joined us. Kendall is saying that when you're doing a short sale, if you submit the proper paperwork up front and on time, that it makes it a shorter process in order to close. The more that you drag your feet when it comes to your seller or your buyer with this process, then it could be a longer process because they're waiting to get these documents. Again, if you're just joining us, I have Kendall, I have Dan here, and we're talking about short sales. And Kendall and I are currently working on a short sale. And so what Kendall does, and if you're a realtor watching this, if you watched the rerun and you are a real estate agent, you can reach out to Kendall. She will help you and negotiate your short sale. She has package already. She has, PDF printout. And my first day talking to her, I had this email within an hour, and I knew everything I needed to do in order for her to help me. It has truly been a blessing because it allows me to be an agent and not have to continue to go back and forth and get these documents, which has in turn allowed us to be on time for just submitting in information that's needed because of her help. And so with that being said, the sooner you submit your information, the better. But, there's nothing short about a short sale. Let's be honest. I don't even know why they call it short sales.
Well, I can actually help with that. So the reason why they're called short sales is not because they're a short process time frame wise. It is because of the fact that the bank is actually taking a shortfall. So they're accepting a less amount or a short sale. They're just getting shorted on the loan that they expect.
Got it. And with working with you, not getting into numbers per se, but when a real estate agent, I just really want people to know if they did decide to work with you, how is that pay for them? How is your fee added into this so that real estate agents can know?
Sure. So the good thing about our company with short sales is we do not charge any upfront fees to the seller or the agents for our services. The way
Can you say it one more time? I'm sorry. Can you say it one more time?
We do not charge any upfront fees to the seller or the agents for our services. So it is, in a way, free. No charge, no out-of-pocket expense for the seller or the agent. We do get paid by placing our fees on the settlement statement that gets submitted to the bank. So the settlement statement is like the HUD-1, the ALTA, that lists all the proceeds of the sale and where they're going. So we place our fees on the settlement statement, and then that is subject to the bank approval as far as what fees they will and will not approve. But that is how we get paid. It's not out of the seller's pocket directly. They don't have to write us a check. So that is how we get paid.
And that is amazing because obviously, when you're going through a short sale as a seller, they don't have the money to repair the house. They don't have any, additional funds. They're not getting any money at settlement. So they don't have any money to cover those fees. So here it is. You have Kendall realtors, many of my realtor friends that are watching. We have Kendall here and Dan would love to work with us. Dan has his settlement group. Dan's also a wonderful attorney. Dan, I want to bring a little light to you to get you into the conversation with us. Your experience in real estate, how long have you been working in real estate transactions, settlement and attorney?
So interestingly, I started right after college in the mid 90s in the mortgage business. So I worked on that side of things for a few years, decided to go back to law school in 2000. And after graduated, worked for a couple firms in the city, mostly on real estate transactional work. And then in 2005, started my first title company. So it wasn't long after I started that company that the market shifted. If you remember, in the early 2000s, things were very good.
Mm-hmm.
Within about 2 years of starting my title business, things changed quite a bit.
Right.
It was at that time that I started getting experience in things like short sale and bankruptcy, and those things that have kind of been a part of that ever since. It certainly isn't as busy now as it once was, which is, I guess, a good thing for the economy and everything. But as we've seen before, I've been around long enough to know that these things shift.
Mm-hmm.
We could see this becoming a very busy part of what we do down the road.
And that's where I was going with my next question with you. With the economy now and things that you see, do you see that we'll probably have more short sale cases coming up, or more people maybe facing bankruptcy just because of what the whole COVID pandemic situation did, and then with the whole income that we've been dealing with anyway with the government and the stimulus money and things like that. There's a lot of people, not to get too into it, but when we're given the stimulus and stuff, I think people think that it's ours right now. At some point down the line, you're not going to have to repay this back. Is this something that you do see though, with what we're talking about, short sales and stuff being something that we may be facing again?
Yeah, so I think the bankruptcies and short sales are a little bit of a separate issue. Sometimes they go together, but not entirely. So the bankruptcies I could see being pretty busy in the future, just because of what's happened in the last year with COVID. I'm sure there are people that have racked up some consumer debt and other things. They've been people out of work. All of those things could lead to bankruptcy filings. Now, the short sales are a bit of a different thing because they're also tied to the real estate market. And as everyone knows, the real estate market has been in a steady incline, which often leads to there not being situations where people owe more on their house than what it's worth.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest factor in not having a ton of short sales that are out there. They'll still come because you got to also remember it's not only mortgages that can lead to a short situation. You can also have judgments, liens, things like tax liens that come a lot that could also be the product of people struggling in the economy and everything like that. That could lead to maybe you're not negotiating with a lender, but you're negotiating with the IRS or the state of Maryland to be able to sell a property.
That makes sense. And with your experience with the bankruptcies part of it for a second, do you know or have an idea of how soon someone can be able to purchase a home after they got out of a bankruptcy?
Yeah, so it depends on the loan program, right?
Okay.
I believe on the FHA and VA, it's a 3-year period. Don't quote me specifically on that. It could be 2, but I thought it was 3. Now, there are other programs out there. Certain lenders would tell me that they could do a mortgage financing a year after the bankruptcy discharge. That's a little bit aggressive. I generally tell people you're going to be looking at a 2 to 3 year window, and importantly, you have to do a really good job with your credit in that time frame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have the bankruptcy filing, but if you rebuild your credit and have a very good history at that point, then you're looking pretty good.
And do you have any quick tips or recommendations for people after getting out of bankruptcy that they can do to rebuild their credit to start off?
Sure. So you definitely want to reestablish something, and there's something that a lot of people would find surprising is that once you come out of a bankruptcy, you're going to get a lot of solicitations about credit, because what every creditor knows at that point, you can't file again for 8 years, right? So whatever you borrow from them, they're going to be able to collect in some regard.
Okay.
So I tell people, be selective. Don't go out and open a ton of credit, especially if you can't keep up with it. But it is good to reestablish yourself and make payments, right? And make sure you're doing all of it timely. You don't want any more late payments after a bankruptcy.
Got it. That makes sense. And then as far as short sales, how soon after someone gets out of a short sale do you think, or do you know when they could be able to purchase a home again if they choose? Like, how bad would the short sale be on their credit and affect them?
So again, it's going to depend on the loan program that they're going. And it probably would be a good question for a loan officer that we could put out there. But I think you're going to be looking at, again, the same thing. The shortest time frame I think you'd see is a year.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what I've been told.
And some of the more conservative lenders, you could be looking at 3.
Yeah. And so what we find though is it definitely depends on the loan that you had that you're getting out of to determine how soon you could be able to purchase again. So So it's really important, guys, and those that are just following us, to make sure that you understand the loan that you're in. And if you feel like you're facing a situation where before you even get to that, okay, I need to do this short sale, or I need to do this bankruptcy, you might need to call someone and just ask for some advice. Talk to, lenders, talk to attorneys, obviously talk to your attorney, right? If you have one. But you want to make sure that you get advice on what's going on before you just make that decision. Sometimes if we can get in front of the situation, it can help with us being proactive than trying to be, to react to a situation that already had occurred. It can definitely help you in the long run. So sticking on short sales for a moment, Kendall, with our short sale, I just wanted to share our story that we had going on with this crazy situation.
Very crazy.
This has been by far the craziest story, but on our current deal that we're working with, my client called and she had got charged from the lender. Mind you, we're going through a short sale. And so when you go through a short sale, obviously the client seller is not making any payments because they don't have money. So they're not making any payments. That's why we're going through the whole short sale process. And they ended up charging my client a mortgage payment. Kendall called in to check in on the case, and they basically got that call confused with another call that they had, and they charged the client. The client called me. She's very upset. We're going through this whole process, and her card just got charged by the lender. So I calmed her down immediately, called the company, and while I'm talking to her, the company on the other line, Kendall calls in. One thing about Kendall, she's very, very responsive. She answers to me. I think I was texting her, or we were emailing, one of the two, and then ended up calling each other. And I'm like, I got them on the other line. I'm so glad you called. This is what's going on. And we were able to just kind of diffuse the situation immediately. They did end up refunding the money, but the fact that, the client's going through stuff anyway, right? I mean, you got to go through a short sale. You have to sell your home, had some other personal issues, and now have to deal with the lender taking money out of her account that was unauthorized. And mind you, I think I heard unauthorized like 100 times on that phone call. She was very adamant to say this was unauthorized, and rightfully so. But they gave her so much trouble in getting her money back. And the moral of me sharing this story is that it takes a team, whether it's no one that has a job to do or the other. For me, it's about helping the client. And it's very important to make sure that the client knows that you're there to help them, regardless of what the situation is. You never look at a situation, oh, it's not my fault. It's not on me to, figure this out. They took it, you give them a call. No, take action, help the client figure the answers. And Kendall, you were just so helpful that day in helping me, listening to me vent, number one, because I was like, oh my gosh, Kendall, like, what is going on? What do I do? You were super helpful, keeping me calm that day, listening to me, and just helping me be able to go back and just diffuse the situation with the client. I think we had another issue with them too. I mean, these lenders, you got to be on top of them. And that's why I love working with Kendall, because it allows me, again, to stay in my real estate side. Kendall can navigate and work with them and negotiate, even offers, the people who you have offers from, they want to know how long is it, what process are you at, where we at now, what we're doing now, and Kendall takes care of all of that. And so I appreciate that. I just wanted to share that story. Dan, do you have any crazy, funny stories that you could share with us on a short sale settlement or transaction that you have done or know about?
Oh my gosh.
I know you got a lot to tell. I know you got to think of something.
I am thinking of one that we did together recently. I don't know if you remember Blue Mount. It had the hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax liens and 13,000 in HOA and condo liens.
Oh, wow.
It was the and plus they had 3 mortgages on the house. So normally a short sale gets more difficult the more mortgages and liens and judgments that you add. So this was certainly the most difficult and involved short sale I did have. It was pretty insane, but we got it to work. We got the IRS to agree to release the liens from the property so we could sell it. We got the convert, and we got them to agree to a lesser amount. There was so much, that was a negotiation is what I gotta say. That was insane. Yeah, that was probably my craziest short sale story.
Well, so I got to tell you, when we initially got that deal and the title report came back a few days later, I called Kendall and I said, Kendall, I don't think we should even start. It's just, way too messy. There's no way that we're going to be able to get all of these different lenders, IRS, state of Maryland, to agree and get the thing done. And sure enough, she did it.
So I am very curious. When you have three different lenders, obviously each lender is agreeing to take less than what they owe. But how? So I guess what I'm saying is, how do you know who gets paid first, second, third? Like, how does that work? And how did you, man? That just sounds like I'm wrapping my head around. Like, wait a minute, I got one. You said three. How does that work?
Do you want to take that one, Kendall?
Well, so yeah, as far as mortgage loans and how you know if they're first or second or third, it's really as far as which one was recorded first with the county land records, as far as whose mortgage is in first, second, or third lien position. I have had short sales where maybe they were fighting between who was in first or second because there was discrepancies as far as like dates, and maybe it got recorded late, but it was actually executed sooner. So those are also issues that we have sometimes in short sales. But overall, usually it is about the date that they were recorded with the county as far as what puts them in first or second position. And then ultimately, when we're negotiating them, the first mortgage, of course, gets most of the proceeds of the sale. And it is actually the first mortgage who dictates how much that they will allow to be paid to the second mortgage from the proceeds of the sale. And so sometimes the tricky part with that is getting the second mortgage to agree to the amount that the first mortgage has said that they will pay to the second mortgage. Oftentimes, the amount the first mortgage will pay to a second is very small in compared to the loan amount. So typically, the first mortgage might only approve $6,000 towards the second mortgage loan, and that is all. Certain types of mortgage loans actually say that the second has to accept $6,000. They can't get any more money, and they can't pursue the seller for the remaining balance. And sometimes the second mortgages say, well, we're not going to accept $6,000. We're just going to kill this deal right now. It's unfortunate, but it has happened. And so there's so many things that when the more mortgages you add, just the more difficult it becomes. It's not impossible though. I've done more than one mortgage. Doesn't make it impossible. It just makes it a little bit more tricky.
The third mortgage probably gets the short end of the stick for real, if they even get anything by the time they get to them.
Yeah, like maybe $1,000, not that much.
So with the deal that you guys did, all three lenders obviously got something from the deal. Now, how does it work if you also paying your lenders? I know you guys mentioned it was liens on the property with like HOA and things like that. Once anything is left over, well, nothing usually is left over from these lenders, but how does that HOA get covered? Does the seller have to come up with money? Because they don't have money, right? So how is that HOA getting covered?
That's a really tricky question because it's not always the same. But what I do usually tell my sellers when I'm talking to them about a short sale is that if at all possible, if you can somehow make sure to keep your water sewer bills paid current and your HOA or condo bills current, that's going to make everybody's life a lot easier. I know that that's not always possible though. So in the occasions where really the seller just can't make those payments, what has to happen is I obtain a payoff statement from the HOA or the condo association, and I submit that over to the short sale lender to see if the bank will approve to pay hopefully the full amount that's owed towards those HOA condo water charges from the proceeds of the sale. Some of the banks do realize that they have to be paid for settlement to occur, and if it's not, then settlement can occur. So sometimes we are successful in getting them to approve 100% of the delinquent balance to be paid from the proceeds of the sale. But that is not, it's not common, I suppose. It's more likely that when we submit the invoices that the bank might say, well, I know that the outstanding HOA is $5,000, but we're only going to pay $1,000 towards that. If that's the case, then what either has to happen is there has to be negotiations with the HOA to see if they'll accept $1,000. Some really play hardball and they don't. And so if that is the case, then somebody has to pay the HOA. It can be the seller, it can be the buyer. It doesn't matter who pays it, but ultimately someone has to pay it if the HOA doesn't agree to accept less.
Oh, so when you go to the bank and you ask the bank to if they would accept the debt from this HOA, then the HOA would, if they say I'm not going to pay the whole amount, but I'll pay this, then you would go to the HOA to see if they would accept that amount first, and then if not, then that balance would have to be covered by the buyer or the seller.
Correct.
Whoever. One thing I love about real estate is everything's negotiable, right? As long as it's in writing, I don't care. I told a client earlier today, being funny, I was like, listen, if you say I want the house with that cow that's in the back, write it on the contract and you get the house with the cow in the back. Like, as long as it's in writing and two parties agree, as absurd as it might sound, if you sign on that line and say, hey, I'll give you, XYZ, then that's that agreement between the two. Obviously, always consult your lawyer. I didn't say that. Oh, it's off record. Talk to your attorney. But, that's one thing I do love about real estate is that nothing's really set in stone. It's just each deal kind of dictates what you can do. And it depends on how negotiable the parties are into accepting, whatever is stated as far as the terms are concerned. So that's why I love real estate, because you can always play around with different things. Might not work all the time, but at least if you, are really quick with being able to negotiate, being quick to be able to say, okay, well, let's see if, this can happen. Because, the HOA actually happened with us. So another crazy story in our one deal that we're working on, Kendall had reached out, and let the seller know about the HOA charges. The buyer had already agreed to cover these charges prior to Kendall, working with me. And so Kendall's just doing her job. She's just, hey, these fees are here. This is what we need. And the seller went off and was like, I thought the buyer was going to pay and I'm not paying and blah, 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 blah. We're like, don't worry about it. We got it. Kendall's just, just crossing out her T's and dotting her I's. She's working with me. You're good. But, we just had to get to that moment. So I love the fact, though, that everything's negotiable in real estate. And again, as long as the parties agree, everybody's good. You write it on a dotted line. You get your attorney to check it if need be. And, once you get the settlement, it's a deal. Once you get that clear to close, that's my favorite word.
Yeah.
Clear to close. I'm like on pins and needles until I hear clear to close. I'm like, okay, now I can count the check. Well, let me still wait till I get to the settlement, get it in my hand before you bank it as the check. That's the one crazy thing about real estate is that, you can have a deal today and gone tomorrow, right?
That's true. I have short sales that were approved, and in a short sale, once they issue the approval letter, we have X amount of days that the bank dictates for us to get to the closing table. Usually it's maybe about 30 days to get to the closing table. As far as the short sale approval letter goes, it has an expiration. But part of that is also typically that we have to submit the final settlement statement to the short sale lender, usually 2 days prior to the closing, for them to give one final once over and say, okay, you really are clear to close, go ahead and close. But sometimes I've had situations, even though the short sale's approved and everybody's ready to go to the closing table, I have had issues sometimes where the short sale lender just is dragging their feet on giving me that clear to close. And sometimes it comes down right at the wire, like a half an hour before settlement. And I'm like, I got it. We got it. Everybody signs a big sigh of relief. They sign all the papers and we're good to go. But even on a short sale, sometimes it's down to the wire.
So let me ask you a question. So on a short sale, and I'm just asking this more for viewers' opinion, just to hear your opinion. But on the short sales, when you do all this negotiation process, you got that approval letter. They said that they'll accept the offer. At that time, what if the buyer decided to change their mind? Because sometimes these banks take so long. Have you had situations where the buyer just backed out because they're like, hey, this deal is taking too long, the market's changed? Because, again, we only got one deal together, but we got so many examples to bring up, right? The guy was like, hey, a house sold up the street, and this is the amount, and I want to change my offer. And I'm like, Kendall, can he do this? Like, what? We've been doing this for months. Now you want to change it?
It's one of those things that can be frustrating because with these short sales, the buyer in a lot of cases doesn't have a lot of skin in the game. Mm-hmm. So once it's ratified, a tremendous amount of work goes into it with the short sale negotiations and everything else. Then you get to that point and now it's the buyer's turn. And we've had plenty where the buyers have just changed their mind. Really? Don't say anything to anybody. The good news typically is that because you've gotten to that point with the lender, if the listing agent can get another buyer at that same price point,
okay,
can be a quick approval process after that, but plenty of them we've had, which is certainly a frustration for Kendall and me, is if you get to that point and the buyer just decides to walk, because they really don't lose much by doing that.
So just to repeat what you said, because you bring up a very good point. So if the buyer walked away and you have this approved amount from the bank, you can just find a buyer that's willing to pay that same amount and continue with the process.
Well, you got to resubmit everything, right?
Okay.
But they've already worked the file as well. So there typically are a lot of things that are already done. So the process can go a lot more smoothly at that point if you're at the same, if nothing's changed but the buyer's name, right?
Right.
And I also want to add one part to that too. It also depends upon the length of time that goes by from the time that the bank gives us that price that they want. Because those values, they base those values off of either appraisal or a broker's price opinion, but those appraisals or BPOs are only good for maybe 3 months. So if you put the property back on the market at the price that the bank wants, but it sits for 2 months and we don't get a buyer while those values are still valid, then it could make it so that if months and months go by, that actually the short sale, they have to order new values. So the previously approved price, if months have gone by, may no longer be necessarily valid because the banks have to order new values. And I do like to bring it up only because that is a common, maybe not misconception, but just a lot of times you might see approved bank price, which at the time it was, but it's not going to be that way for eternity.
So when they do that, if they decided, months went by, they do it all over again, they get another BPO to come out, do the whole thing all over again to get these values. So that could take, some time. As you know, we scheduled, this BPO and appraisal took like 2 months. It took like 2 months to schedule. We're like, is it scheduled yet? And then the guy.
Well, I will tell you, that's not common. I think it's just because of how the real estate market is right now, being so bonkers that, the appraisal. Normally, that's not a short sale as far as the appraisal taking so long. Right. I think it's just the market itself right now.
Oh, definitely with that. But when he did call me, it was like 3 weeks out. He was like, is that right? Was that the correct date? I'm like, that's the next available.
And I will say that is the longest out that I've seen for a short sale too. So I was shocked as well that appraiser was so busy.
Same here. Well, hopefully we're almost at the finish line with that deal. I'm definitely looking forward to closing with you guys. In regards to short sales, is there anything else, Dan or Kendall, that you guys can add on to just help people understand if you're facing a short sale, what are some things that they can kind of do to be proactive as a seller? If they know that they're facing a short sale, that can kind of help their process.
Well, the first thing I'd say is contact us and let's get you in touch with Kendall. Right?
And how can we get in touch with you, Kendall? That's the first thing we need to do. Get in touch with Kendall.
All right. So you can always call me. My number is 443-618-8926. That is my direct cell phone. Again, I'll repeat it one more time. 443-618-8926. But you can always email me as well. Emails are always in front of my face. So my email is kendall@radebaughLaw.com. So that's spelled Ken as in Nancy, D as in David, ALL at Radebaugh, RADEBAUGH, law, LAW.com.
Love it. Love it. And are you on social media at all? Do you have any social media platforms?
I do, but I will say I don't use it very frequently. But I am on Facebook and I guess on Instagram.
And if anybody wanted to follow you, they can follow you by just looking up your name.
Okay. Yeah. Just look at my name on Instagram. I'm just Kendall Manges, and Facebook, Kendall Manges. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So the first thing we want to do, Dan, you say get in contact with Kendall, right?
Yeah, that's important because Kendall's going to talk to you, and she's going to get a real overview of the entire situation. And the paperwork is so important in terms of not only being timely submitted, but being completely submitted so that she'll know anything that this lender is going to require as this process goes forward. She can get that paperwork from you and it can all be submitted at once, right? Because she'll know if you put in an incomplete submission and 30 to 45 days later, they come back and go, oh, we need to look at this now, right?
Yep.
He's going to know. And that could be financial records. If you're self-employed, it could be, tax returns, profit and loss statements, whatever they're going to require. She's going to know that. She's going to know how to help you put together a hardship letter. That's going to be required. All of the things that bank's going to need, Kendall's going to know. So the earlier you talk to her, the earlier she's going to give you that information, because all of it's going to get submitted for the most part after the contract on the property is ratified. You often can submit a little bit before, such as an authorization, just so that the bank knows it's a short sale. So you can send them a listing agreement and authorization so they know it's listed for short sale and that we have the ability to speak on the client's behalf. But the real submission is going to take place after a contract comes in. So,
got it. And that's really important to hear. So if you, not to cut you off, Dan, but if you are a seller, number one, you want to get with the realtor and also call Kendall, connect the two, or reach out to Kendall. Maybe Kendall may recommend an agent. Hello, I'm just saying. But no, real story. Get with the Kendall, get with the attorney's office that do this and that work on short sales all the time. You
Oh no. I can't hear Yolanda anymore. Can you, Dan?
No, she froze up there for a second.
Oh no. Oh, okay. So what do we do?
I guess the good news is it's not just me.
Yeah. Here she is. You're back.
Okay, I went out for a second and I am back. I'm going live. I'm back.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was just me, and so like then they were just like,
Hey, it's live. You guys are keeping it real tea. I'm welcoming myself back. We were talking about getting it. If you're a seller and you're looking at this, or if you know a seller or know someone,
man.
Uh-oh. He's having the connection problem. But I know what he wants to say, which is if you have a seller, reach out to Kendall, right?
Mm-hmm. And I will guide you the entire way through as best as I can. And yeah.
That's all they got to do.
Yeah.
We'll take it from there.
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
Now we have our own podcast.
I mean, Dan, the Dan and Kendall show. I like it.
We can talk about anything.
Yeah, anything.
It's just you and me now.
Yep. I mean, how about those short sales, Dan? You know.
Here we go. So it looks like she left.
I know, but I don't even know how to turn this off. You know.
Should we wrap it up?
I feel like maybe.
Well, to all the listeners on this podcast, it's been great talking to you. Oh, there, hold a minute.
I'm back again. The real one that we were good. We were about wrapping it up. We were like, we don't know what to do.
Yes, we're gonna have to wrap this up, guys. My internet is so choppy right now. It's crazy. I don't want to keep going in and out, but I definitely do appreciate you guys tuning in with me. Again, if you're a seller and you're watching this, definitely get in contact with us. If you are know someone, definitely reach out to us and get in contact with us as well. Thank you guys so much. I apologize to my viewers for my choppy internet service, but I do appreciate you guys, Kendall and Dan, for coming on the show today. Just before I let you guys go, Dan, where's your settlement company located? And tell me just a little bit about the company in case anybody needs to use you for a settlement.
Sure. So it's R&P Settlement Group, and the main office that I'm in right now is in Lutherville in Baltimore County. We also have locations in Harford County and Bel Air, and in Howard County and Ellicott City and Fulton.
Nice.
We have website rpsettlement.com, phone numbers 410-821-1401, and my email is dan@rpsettlement.com. Always available for any type of questions, or of course, if somebody wants to work with us, they could contact me through those means as well. we've been doing it for a while. I think we do a pretty good job. So anybody that likes to work with us, we'd love to work with them too.
Well, I have learned a lot today just in talking to you guys, understanding a lot more about short sales. As I mentioned to Kendall, this is my very first short sale that I'm going through the process. So it's good to go through with someone who has a lot of experience. Just in talking to you guys for the last half hour, I would definitely trust to use your company. I mean, you guys had done a deal. I don't know if you guys caught this, but they had a short sale that had 3 different lenders. That's 3 different people you got to negotiate with. It had HOA liens. They had to get approval from the IRS. So if you don't think that they are well experienced in dealing with that big old headache, I think that is enough to say that's a well enough experience to know that you guys have been doing this. And Dan, just really quick for us, remind us of how long you've been in the business with your settlement company and bankruptcies and things that you've been doing.
So on the title side of things since 2005.
Got it.
So I've seen
2005.
Just about everything that could happen in that time frame, in the market conditions, and in things like short sales, bankruptcy, title, all of that. So it's been a little bit now. You know, I had a full head of hair when this whole thing.
I understand. That's why I got my wig on, because the hair, the grays, and you got to keep coloring it. Just comes out. It's crazy. And Kendall, how about for yourself? How long have you been working with short sales and now expertise in working in it?
Since basically just around 2011. So a little over 10 years.
Got it. That is well over enough experience for me. I am enjoying working with you. Again, any realtors that are watching this, if you have a short sale, if you have questions, Kendall was so nice to me. I just called Kendall like, hey, somebody gave me your information. Can you work with me? She's like, yeah, sure. Send me the information. I just thought it was going to be like people picking to choose, what they want to work with. You know what I mean? You know how the industry could go. Some people probably like, no, I don't want to deal with that, or I don't do that anymore, or whatever. But she was very, very warm. And I believe I called your phone and you answered. And we talked for a good 10, 15 minutes just in the beginning of the call. And then as soon as I hung up, I got your email with your packet and, everything else that I needed to do to get started. So if you're a realtor and you're looking at this, if you have a short sale, you definitely want to get with Kendall. If you're thinking about doing short sales, get with Kendall. She'll give you a packet and everything that you need to kind of help you get that process that we talked about started. I just want to go over snippets before we go, but make sure if you are doing a short sale, submit everything in one packet. And that's the packet I'm talking about that Kendall will give you. So if you're a realtor and you're looking at this and you want to get into short sales, reach out to Kendall. She'll get you that packet and everything is lined up so that way when you're reaching out to the client, all of this stuff can be submitted in the very beginning while you're putting that on, the house on the listing and, getting everything together and getting your offers in. And in that way, the deal can just continue to roll in. So, this is for everyone in real estate, whether you're a realtor, buyer, seller. If you're interested in buying, because you have some people that say, hey, I only want to buy short sales. I don't even want to buy anything else. If you are a buyer and you're looking to buy short sales, reach out, network, connect. You never know. I might have something that, you could take a look at and see if it's something that you might be interested in buying before it even becomes a short sale. Maybe you have the finances to do it. Or sometimes you look at things and think it's a short sale and it might not be. It just depends on that buyer, if they're, able to come up with those funds and want to pay that. Again, everything's negotiable. It just depends on what that buyer and that seller decide to negotiate with. I thank you guys again for your time. You told us how we can reach you. You guys know how you can reach out to me. I am on Keeping It Real T for the podcast. You can reach out to me as well as on Yolanda Brockington page or also my realtor page. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please don't forget, guys, to like, comment, and share. There is someone out there that can definitely get feedback from today's conversation. There's someone out there that's facing a short sale or maybe facing a short sale. There's a realtor out there that might be interested in short sales. And as you know from today, I have been learning a lot with Kendall and Dan. So we thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you for your support and have a good one.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.